Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, and good middle of the night, depending on where you are and what you've been doing. We're going to talk about the nature of self-care for this month. This is our topic. And in the nature of self-care, we're going to open today with the concept of humor, or as I like to say, a funny thing happened on the way to my healing. It's humor is an intriguing concept with healing, and it shouldn't be, because, well, humor is a natural part of healing. If we allow it to be natural, it's an ever-present part of healing. It's very important. It's been talked about for the longest time. Back in the 1300s, Henri de Monville, a professor of surgery, put out the post-operative theory of how important humor was. Norman Cousins, more recently, a journalist and a professional, would talk about humor, and he initiated the trend when he developed sort of his own treatment based on mood elevation and even laughter. And Bernie Siegel has written books about it too. Self-care, we know it's love, it's how we treat our bodies, it's exercise, it's conscious eating. We don't always think about it as being humor. We have to be reminded. The nature of self-care, well, it's an interesting conversation. It can be generic, these are the shoulds, these are the shouldn'ts, or it can be very personal. This is how it applies to me. This is how we can look and see who we are. It's very intriguing the way healing is recognized, just as it's kind of intriguing the way humor in healing is recognized. So think about it. Is humor funny? I'm sorry, humor is funny. See, I was just funny by accident. And that's what humor is. Humor is not because we intend it. Nothing's worse than a forced joke or forced laughter. What makes dad jokes not funny is that we've heard them so many times. For something to be funny, it needs to be unexpected. It needs to be a surprise. So you tell the same joke over and over again, you can't really expect your audience to spontaneously laugh. They might politely laugh. And if they're your kids, after a while, they'll just groan. But humor has to be unexpected. So are we funny? I'm funny, maybe not at this moment. Or maybe when I say that, it strikes me funny. And when, people used to say, when I was a kid and I'd tell a joke, you're not supposed to laugh at your own jokes. Where the hell does that line come from? If your own joke makes you laugh, then you're really being natural and sharing with this. So more than likely, in self-care, we've got interesting topics. And you probably, if we're exploring nutrition, well, you'll probably want to go more deeply into that with Jillian instead of me. I don't know why. It could be because I broke down yesterday and went into a fried chicken place. I won't say it was the Colonel's fried chicken. I won't say it was KFC, but I can honestly tell you that it wasn't. I didn't have a Coke with it. But why not? We all know it's the real thing. Let me tell you, when I used to open a lot of my live training sessions, I would have the stage set up. So you'd see a big round table and a bunch of bottles of water, more water than anyone would drink. The water wasn't there because I needed so much of it. The water was there to hide what was behind it. What was behind it was, at some point in talking about the healings, I would reach in back and I'd pull out a bottle of Coke. And I'd wait for the inevitable groan from the audience. It wasn't really so much a groan as it was a gasp. The people attending would go, ah, and I go, what's the matter? It's the real thing. And I drink it and they'd be horrified. Some of them would actually be angry. And then we'd later bring up the healing demo. And of course, I said, this demo won't work because I'm drinking the Coca-Cola. But of course, the demo always worked. And people would gasp. And so later I started saying, you're right, I shouldn't drink this. And I reached behind bottles of water again. And I said, so I've switched to Dr. Pepper. It's got to be healthy because it says doctor right there in the label. So again, people would laugh and the groaners would groan louder, which meant it was no longer a natural gasp. We were talking about natural humor and natural laugh as opposed to a forced laugh. It wasn't a natural gasp. It was now they wanted to be heard. So I said, yeah, you're right. I guess I shouldn't drink Dr. Pepper either. Maybe I should go for something more natural, something that forms on earth, maybe on the blades of grass in the early morning. And I reached behind, I pulled out Mountain Dew. Well, by that time, the people who were laughing at it were just, pardon the expression, shitting themselves. And the people who were angry were really trying to groan in anger. And the contrast made it funnier for the people who were laughing at it, because they know that everyone is now pretentiously trying to be offended. Why? Where is the humor in that? Where is humor? What is the role of humor? It releases attachment and allows us to receive. It lets us grasp a message. They're going to remember. I had a Coke, I had a Dr. Pepper, I had a Mountain Dew. The healing worked anyway. They're going to see the humor and it penetrates. It opens us up to receiving, to accessing information. But sometimes we miss things. I remember my first tour in Australia. I was there for about 8 weeks. And one morning, I had one night off in 8 weeks. And the whole group of us went out to party in Australia, and we can kind of grasp what partying in Australia means. It means beer and tequila shots and whatever other fun you have on your one night out, because you've got that one morning you can sleep afterwards, I thought. Somewhere at the ungodly hour of 6 or 7 in the morning, my phone rings in my hotel room. So I sort of, don't even want to let the light into my eyes. I reach over to answer the phone. I go, hello. And this very serious voice says, are you Dr. Eric Pearl? I said, yes. Do you know that are you aware that the AMA, the Australian Medical Association, has convened a formal meeting and issued a national warning about you? I'm thinking, what, an American waving his hands in the air, very dangerous, right? And I said, very naturally, you're kidding, natural response. And I could hear and feel him taking a measured breath and say, I failed to find the humor in that, because I said, you're kidding. And I'm thinking, you're right. You failed. You failed to find the humor in it. Doesn't mean the humor is missing. You just failed to find it. I'm thinking, crazy American waving his arms in the air, quick, hide the babies, right? So anyway, I thought, and I said goodbye and I hung up. Apparently it was a national radio show. The phone starts ringing again 20 minutes later.
What is a portal? It's a doorway to transformation.
It's an expansion of our online essentials, our level 1, an 8+ hour e-learning course.
The portal helps us discover our roadblocks that may be stopping us from living our fullest potential.
How does the portal help bring about these benefits? Easy to follow short segments with interactive exercises, information acquired not only through the mind, but through interaction with the frequencies themselves. It includes the 8 hours of the online essentials course.
2 key chapters, one on love and one on healing, from the new series, The Inner Compass. It brings the possibility for instant transformation, healing, and the evolution of each and every one of us.
Major television, national Australian television. It was Channel 10 News, and I think the Today Tonight Show, and something else. I can't remember what it's called. Another program, and they're sending people over. And my person representing me down there got wind of it, and he's downstairs, or she's downstairs, holding the people back, only letting them come up one at a time. And let me tell you, the last thing I wanted to do at that hour of the morning after my one night out was to try to look or sound civilized and entertained, but in they came. They were coming one way or the other. So he did one interview, another interview, and finally, and one of the shows came in, and I thought they left. They came back with this very tall, polite, proper speaking Australian accent, 86-year-old woman who couldn't move her hands more than like this much. And they said, we want you to, and this interviewer was so mean on TV. And in his breaks, he was very friendly. And then television came back on and he was nasty. It was an act. But he said, we want you to do a healing on this woman's arthritic, swollen fingers that could move like, 6 degrees maybe. I said, she's probably had that for 45, 55, 60 years. I can't tell you what's going to happen. The guy said, that's all right. When we come back, we'll just explain why you refuse to do it. I went, shit, that won't go over well. So she came back in and we let her feel the frequencies just like everyone else. And suddenly she could move her fingers, and that was great. And even the interviewer, who was so mean throughout all these interviews, said, I've seen something I've never seen before. So at the end of the night, on one of the news shows, I see this woman being interviewed, and she was taken and swept away to some main AMA representative there, Australian Medical Association. And she's saying, and he's saying, you know what happened? It's impossible. She says, but look, I can move my fingers. He said, yes, but that's impossible. She said, but I can knit again. He said, that's impossible. She got so angry at him. She said, I can button my sweater. And she showed him. And it's funny how anger affects things and how humor affects things, and how funny it was the way she responded with her anger, how it impacted the Australian audience. But the way that she and I spoke during the experience, the pleasant humor of it allowed for the nature of the healing to show up. At least it does for some people. It's really, really, really important that we can smile. I find that when I'm facilitating a session, there's a natural smile of pleasure. There's the joy and the humor of the excitement of seeing the response. You can't fake it, although people try. You've probably seen some of these groups or classes. Jillian and I went to a yoga class one time where they brought in the laughing yogi, and he would sit there in front of the class and force out laughter, and everyone was supposed to laugh with him. So we'd all try to laugh with him, and maybe some of the people found it funny. I just found it so forced that it wasn't natural, because humor is natural. But sometimes we get so serious, we stunt it, you know. There's, you know, bad jokes. I just flew in from Sedona and boy, are my arms tired, you know, Sedona being a spiritual city. I taught my dog to heal and now I'm out of a job. And, you know, grandfather jokes, father jokes. And sometimes there are jokes that are just funny. And yet we think that when it has to do with healing or God or spirituality, we're not supposed to laugh. And people get really annoyed. And I'll give you an example. First, I'll tell you the joke, and then I'll tell you the response that I've gotten to it. So this woman is in a terrible car accident. They don't think she's going to live. Goes into the hospital. She dies, leaves her body, shows up in heaven, and they say, Gladys, nice to see you, but it's not your time. You have to go back. You've got a long life to live, long life. So we're sending you home. So Gladys wakes up in the hospital and they tell her she's going to be in the hospital for at least 3 months. And she figures, well, I'm going to be in here for 3 months anyway. I might as well do all those things that I thought about, but I didn't do. Going to fix my nose, going to fix my breasts. I'm going to color my hair. I'm going to lift my chin in my face. I'm going to do all these different things. So she's there. She spends all the time. She heals. She's looking great. Checking out of the hospital when she's released. She walks out the door. She's hit by a bus. Next thing, she ends up in heaven. She finds herself facing God. She looks at him and she said, God, you told me I had a long life to live. What's happening? God leans forward. He adjusts his glasses on his nose, squints a little bit, and he goes, Gladys? He couldn't recognize. Okay, so it's a funny joke, right? It's a funny joke. Do you know people got angry at that joke? You know why some people got angry? They got angry because God wore glasses. They got angry because God squinted or didn't recognize someone. That is failure to see the humor. When one of these people say, I failed to see the humor, they are absolutely right. Let us not fail to see the humor. It's part of who we are. It's part of our nature. You know, we talk about healing animals. Can we heal animals the same way we heal people? And we say, you know, animals are people in fursuits, of course. And then when, I don't know if we can see this on the camera or not, but then when I was on stage, I'd say, you know, sometimes the horses will fall off of the massage tables, but otherwise you do the same thing. And the humor in it allows people to get how silly we are sometimes. But topics are important. Sometimes we look at topics of reincarnation, for example, and we don't want them to be anything but serious and true. There's a joke I read recently. It's a man talking about his wife. He said, my wife asked me the other day about reincarnation. What is it? And I told her it's when you die and you come back as something completely different. She was so angry. She said, you mean I could die and come back like as a pig? And he said, I don't really think you're listening. You don't get it? Maybe I didn't tell it funny. Shall I tell it? Is anyone laughing? Katharina, do you not get it? Do you get it? You want me to say it again? Watch. Now listen carefully. So, guy's talking to his wife about reincarnation. What's reincarnation? He said, that's when you die and you come back as something entirely different. She's furious. She said, you mean I could come back like maybe as a pig? And he said, I'm not sure you're really listening. Entirely different. Are you there? Poor Harry's about to fall off his chair. His mascara is running and he doesn't even wear any. Okay. Anyway, failure to see humor in something is really funny because it often implies our blocks. Now, it's not about telling a joke. It's about that humor releases expectations and allows us to be natural, to be who we are, and allows us to learn when we can see the humor in ourselves. There's a difference between seeing humor in yourself and feeling laughed at or made fun of. Now, there are ways you can laugh at and make fun of people. That's not necessarily healthy humor. But sometimes how we perceive it has to do on a personal perspective. I would open a lot of the training programs and talk about, reconnective healing, how it's not a technique. We don't breathe it in one direction, blow it out another, make it clockwise, make it counterclockwise, bring it down from the heavens and this percentage up from the earth, shake it off, spray it off, cough it out, sneeze it off, run away and pull up make-believe zippers in front of ourselves. And the humor, the people who were laughing because I said, and you're doing a lot of this shit, aren't you? And they were laughing even funnier because it gave them the opening they needed to see what they were doing that they can really release. Because as we know, everything we release, we let go of what's been obscuring our vision of ourselves, of who we are. Anyway, so we talk about shake it off and spray it off and breathe it in and cough it out and sneeze it out and do everything else that we're doing. And those who were getting it, the majority, were laughing and going, I guess I really don't have to do that. I guess I don't have to take off my heavy belt or my jewelry, because really, could you imagine God's floating over the top of you going, I really want Marilyn to have a healing, but that watch, that belt buckle, I just can't get through it. And when we start to laugh at these things, we start to see them, we let them go. We no longer need to walk around in that illusion. I was talking about this at Kripalu one time in the Northeast, and two guys left, two brothers who were Reiki practitioners. They thought we were making fun of Reiki. Not making fun of anything. We're seeing the humor in the illusion of ourselves, but laughter is what allows us to do that. Those who don't laugh aren't yet ready to see in those areas. So when things strike us funny during healing sessions we're facilitating or our own, let's enjoy them. Natural smile. Humor is happiness. It's joy. We can't be serious around healing. Seriousness around healings are the shoulds. It's not the nature of healing. The nature of healing has no shoulds. Forced laughter, upset about Coca-Cola and Mountain Dew being politically correct. What the hell is political correctness anyway? It's either correct or it isn't. Political is an adjective. It's a modifier. If you modify correct, then you modify it away from correct. But, we have to know our audience. We have to know our people. We have to know what we want to do. And we have to realize that you just can't go through life being monotonously one note serious. What do I mean by that? I mean, there are a lot of people who learn healing and suddenly they can't wear any color but white. They have to wear white. Keep their hands clasped. They keep a neutral expression on their face. They think about living in a cloister. The way they walk, you can actually picture clouds strapped to their feet over their sandals. They can step softly. Their eyes have to blink a lot. And if you listen, you can talk yourself into thinking that you can almost hear the harp music that they are playing. What is it with that New Age music? Why do people buy New Age music? I mean, really. Do they listen to it at home when they're alone? No. They wait for you to come over so they can inflict it on you for the course of the evening. If people enjoyed New Age music, there would be New Age discos. Would anyone go to a New Age disco? How the hell do you dance to it? You'll trip over those clouds you're wearing for shoes. You know, and this isn't a difficult concept. It really isn't. I was watching, there's a great show called The Good Doctor. And in one of the episodes, someone was saying to someone else, you know, what's really hard to believe is that being a vegan is the least annoying thing about you. Want me to explain that? I asked the people today, I said, who remembers the first time you gave up meat? A whole bunch of hands went up. I said, the first time. That's right. And then what happens? They gave up the meat. And then they couldn't wait to go out to dinner with their best friend. So as they could place that first forkful of meat into their mouth, their friend, they could turn around and say, do you know what meat does? Do you know what it does inside your body? It festers in your intestines. It does this, it does that. And they ruin the person's meal. And they can't understand why their friends won't go to dinner with them again. And then one day they finally get their friend to go to dinner with them. And they order a salad and vegetable soup and everything just so it can be as pleasant as possible. And the friend orders a hamburger and you want to shoot them. They've quit. They've just failed to let you know that they're no longer that. I mean, shoulds, humor. There's a reason for humor. Who enjoys humor here? Raise your hand. Do you enjoy humor? Raise your hand. Everyone enjoys humor. That's why you laugh. That's what laughter is. Okay? There's a reason for it. You enjoy sex. There's a reason for it. It's part of our natural design. Sex is part of our natural design. The reason we we're so driven to have sex. The reason we enjoy it so much is for procreation. Isn't that great? We don't think about, oh, I think I want to procreate today. Maybe I'll have some sex. No, you have sex because you're driven, because you enjoy it. But that's the reason. It's part of a design. And it's the same thing with humor. We enjoy humor. We have to force ourselves not to enjoy humor, to be a humor Puritan or prohibitionist. You know, oh, there'll be no laughter here. This is a healing seminar. We all have to be really serious. Humor releases endorphins. Again, it's natural. Humor translates, jokes don't. Humor does. It's an expression of happiness. Guess fucking what? So are you. Sometimes we walk around miserable because we don't know that we're expressions of happiness, but we are. We are happiness. We are joy. We are love. Humor allows us to be that. These are natural expressions of health, and they're natural expressions of us. It takes a lot of work to kill your humor. You have to walk around with your face doing this. There's a word for it, dour. It's a dour expression. It's humorless. When people are in a healing session, you ever watch some of those beautiful smiles they get? You ever notice you get that smile too? You ever see how their body responds? Makes you want to laugh. You're happy. You're happy. Humor is an integral part of healing, and we try to kill it. We really do, because we think we're supposed to be focused on seriousness, when humor is an elevated level of happiness, a release of tension, stress, and worry. I remember hearing someone one time talking about, um, I don't know why I'm sharing this because it strikes me funny, I guess, and I get to because I'm the one in front of the microphone. Ha ha ha. But anyway, says, every day they worked in a department store and they'd go up the main escalator and face the mannequins who are all in these natural positions like this. And they'd go up the escalator looking at these mannequins going, who puts these in these positions? Why do you do that? And anyway, when the store would close at night, all the electrical would stop. So they'd go out the back door upstairs. But um, one day, for some reason, they had to leave through a different exit. So they had to go back downstairs to the main store. And they got on the escalator and they were going down. And it was the first time they saw the mannequins from behind. And each of them had one of those giant metal rods shoved up their butts. And they said, now I get it. I would stand like this too. I mean, we walk in very seriously, whether we are looking for our own healing session or whether we want to facilitate a healing session for others. Tell a joke, lighten up. Clients receiving healings, they're nervous. They are. I had a woman come in. The first time I met her, she came into my office. She had injured herself. She wanted a healing session. She had this problem. She had the other problem. And she came in a very expensive outfit. And she's saying, I don't know why all these things are going on. And I looked at her. I said, well, that's what you get for wearing brown. She had no idea what I meant by that. I didn't either. There it was. I just let it flip out of my mouth. But she laughed. And we became good friends. She had healing sessions after healing sessions for years. Humor is very funny. Try it. Humor me. Lighten up. Go chase those two Reiki brothers who left at Kripalu who thought I was making fun of Reiki. I said, no, we're laughing at some of the silly things that we do. We're laughing some of the silly things that we do, some of the things we're afraid to talk about. I'll give you one other reincarnation joke, and then we're going to open up for conversation. So this guy dies, shows up in heaven. He said he didn't want to leave. He loved his wife, their farm, everything else. And the guy said, well, you can go back, but you can't be a person again. You can be reincarnated as a dog or a chicken. He said, well, I don't really want to be a dog, but I've got a chicken farm or ranch. So I think I'll go back as a chicken, and then I can at least see my wife every day. So I said, okay, we'll send you back as a chicken. So he reappears on Earth, and his stomach is feeling very full. He said, what's going on? What's going on? He says, eggs. You have eggs. You want to lay the eggs. I said, okay, what do I do? He said, squeeze. What do you mean? Squeeze. Really hard, squeeze. And he goes, push it up. And there's this huge release. Oh, he feels so good. Very excited. Thank you. He's telling the guide who's explaining what to do. And it's building again. It's building again. I feel it. That's all right. Do it again. Squeeze. Squeezes and pushes it out. Oh, it feels so good. One more time. It's coming. Okay, harder, faster. Just get it out. Get it out. He squeezes it. It leaves. He feels the joy of motherhood, the release of an egg. He feels so excellent. And all of a sudden, there's this pain in the back of his head. Bam! And he hears his wife saying, wake up, you're shitting in the bed. Now, are we allowed to tell jokes about reincarnation? Are we allowed to tell jokes about healing? Are we allowed to see humor and laughter? Are we allowed to simply be the joy, the beauty, the nature of life? fun. Just everything just have to be so damned serious. Can you wear plaid? You don't have to wear white. Okay, open up. Share with me.
Okay, who wants to who wants to share? I'm gonna tell one of the jokes that are in the chat. Miriam, you shared a joke. I'm trying to find it here. My favorite joke of the day: tomorrow's procrastination day has been postponed. Yes, I have a tendency for procrastinating. Here's more jokes. Come on. Okay, John, share a joke. Here we go. Share, talk to us.
Can you hear me?
Talk to us more, though. Really, I'm going to suggest talk to us about humor. I mean, we can do jokes all the time, but talk to us about your thoughts on humor in healing.
Are you hearing me?
What?
Can you?
That's what I mean.
There we go. Well, there is a rule about humor, and that's that a good joke should be told fast. Know what I mean?
Could be. But then there are story jokes, like the one about Gladys. Gladys? But you have to build up to it. Yeah, but you're right. What do you think about humor and healing? What's the relationship? Share with us.
I think humor is great for healing because people let go when they start laughing. When something tickles their funny bone, they just let go of their preconceptions of how it should be.
And they let go of a lot of their fears.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's our fears of, will I get well? What if I don't get well? It's all that seriousness that becomes such a block and a limitation. And when we're able to joke a little bit, when we're able to laugh, it helps. It's even, how about when you're at a funeral? What happens eventually that helps everyone feel better is people start sharing some funny stories about the person who passed. But we think we shouldn't. Oh, don't talk about the person like that. Don't share those things. Just speak about them as if they're saintly. Laugh. We're here to bring laughter to each other. I see more hands.
Yes.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Hold on just a second. Julie, what would you like to share? Julie, unmute. Mute myself.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So, well, this is not a joke.
That's good.
It's about me laughing at myself, which the story, and it was healing for me because when I have to go to the gas station, and if I go through, they have, car washes, I get nervous because I think I'm going to do it. I don't know if I'm going to do it right. I really have a resistance to it. And I had a problem with getting my money and the whole thing. The guy came out. So I'm already uptight and tense. So I'm on the track and it starts, and all of a sudden all this water comes whooshing through the window with the soap, and I get drenched on my right side, and I'm like, oh my God. And I rolled the window up and I just started laughing. I was laughing the whole way through, and it was such a great release. It was such
See,
like,
you
what are
got
you
clean
so
along with your
uptight about?
car.
Yeah.
I
I
know.
laughed all the way home, actually. It was just, I cracked myself up.
And somebody's got to.
Who left the window
right?
open?
I
Yeah.
know. People say, don't tell those old jokes. It dates you. I said, someone has to. But, but I love what, wait, I just saw something in here that was very good. Okay. Well, I don't remember who put it in, but, we always tell people in advance, and during the session, a lot of times your organ tissue can be very susceptible. Your stomach may gurgle, and if yours gurgle, mine will gurgle too. And you know what? Someone's stomach gurgles and we want to laugh. laugh out loud. Don't worry about it embarrassing them. They're left to say, see, I told you it's a joke. It releases people. Humor in so many ways, it doesn't need to be a joke. Really, part of the problem with jokes is that people have heard them. Anyone can tell a joke. Sure, some have a rhythm to it that makes it better. Timing is important, but allowing yourself to find the humor, to recognize the humor, to laugh with the humor, to be with the humor, that's the key. You don't have to be the comedian, but we don't have to be stiff and sour and living in shoulds. And that's part of the problems with a lot of our healing techniques. We focus so much on, wait, what's my next step? And how do I do it this way? And when do I pull up this protection? And when do I bring that down? And we're not in the nature of being. Healing is in the being, not the doing, not the steps. Part of what happens with reconnective healing is that we share that we're bringing this consciousness in. And as soon as we start adding to it, we start adding seriousness to the flow. Oh, I'm also going to do this to make it better. Oh, get over yourself. You can't make infinite more infinite. You can just look a little funny. And if you're going to do that, then at least laugh with it. Laugh with it.
Thank you so much, Julie. We have
Thank you.
Chad. Chad, would you like to unmute, please?
Oh, a face from the past.
Yes.
It is. It's so great to see you, Eric, and hear you
You
speaking.
too.
It's been lovely for me to hear your voice again and just soak all this up. To your question about humor, I think it also brings people out of their head and into experience. So they start to feel something instead of being in the analytical process. I remember a specific reconnective healing session where a person came in and they were in a very intense experience. And the second the session began, they burst out laughing. They couldn't stop laughing. She was completely unnerved by the fact that she couldn't stop. She's like, why am I laughing? I'm like, I don't know why you're laughing. You're laughing. Is this appropriate? I was like, I guess so, because that's what's happening. And I was, of course, enjoying the fact that in a second, all of that heaviness and all of the pain, which was real that she was in, she couldn't access it. It was just gone instantaneously because she just stepped into that space and it was just changed instantaneously.
But did you think, my mother used to do that too. So I know, and others, of course, who do that. But were you thinking about the value of the laughter and the release and the experience and this and that, or were you just laughing?
Me personally?
Yeah, you at that time.
Probably at that time. I think I was sort of probably a little bit of both. I think I was entertained because I know her. I happen to know this person. It was startling to me too. She's not typically that way. So I think I was a little laughing at the fact that she was laughing and then probably processing it a little bit. Yeah.
Wasn't the laughing more fun than the processing of what it could mean?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Then maybe the laughter is more natural. And maybe in a discussion of this, to discover what's more natural, it makes sense to process, but really to be in that processing mode of, I don't know whether I should laugh or not. I don't want to get any moisture and ruin my white clothes here and get my cloudy shoes to start to precipitate. I have to remember to blink. I mean, really, if we just let go into the true joy of it, it's our healing as much as theirs. There's a fine line between analyzing and analyzing.
Yeah.
I'm great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also want to share, actually, when I heard you speak for the first time was at IQUIM back 9 years ago or 10 years ago, whenever that was. And one of the things
when we were still teenagers.
Yes. And one of the things that really drew me to the philosophy of reconnective healing was that in that panel, as one of the speakers and presenters, is that I loved the fact that you were using humor to kind of deconstruct the seriousness in that environment of science and education and diagnosis and all the other things that were going on, which were appropriate to everybody else. But that's one of the things that really drew me to this work, was the fact that it came with humor and came with a permission to let that stuff go. So I'm enjoying this because that was one of the very first things that attracted me to this. So I don't know if I ever shared that
Thank
with
you.
you.
No,
Yeah.
thank you. But the funny thing is I wasn't thinking about doing it to deconstruct this and reconstruct that. It was just that I was sharing the humor in what we see. I only look back on it later when I see how so many people have so many different responses, and most of them are about them, but they like to think of it like, are we making fun of techniques? No, we're making fun of some of the things that we've done. We're sharing the fun, the humor, and the release of it. There was a woman who was teaching a technique that was kind of big-ish in Europe and a little bit in the US for a while. And I gave a presentation once at a big event that Lynn McTaggart had put on. And I gave a presentation about our techniques and our this or that, and I would talk about, training wheels as I do, and put on one set of training wheels and a second set, and suddenly they're driving down the street with 12 sets of training wheels, and they've mastered the bicycle of training wheels. They haven't mastered the bicycle, meaning they've mastered, healing with 12 sets of techniques. They haven't mastered healing itself. And she got very angry at me because she thought for some reason that I knew that something in the technique she taught had 12 steps of something, and decided that I was making fun of her approach. So people sometimes, instead of seeing the humor, they sometimes feel attacked, and they imagine themselves as so important that they become the focal point instead of allowing themselves to see the healing in it. And a natural response for us is to hold back a little bit because we might offend someone, even though we're not the ones offending them. They are offending themselves through their own illusions, delusions. And we hold back a little bit here, and then we hold back a little bit there, then we hold back a little bit there. And then suddenly we wake up one day and go, I wonder what happened to me. I used to be funny. I used to be natural. And now I'm too contained. I'm not who I am. So it's nice to have a little bit of an awareness around it, but I suggest strongly that we share the humor of what we see. And just as we can't take credit or responsibility for someone's healing, we can't really take credit or responsibility for someone imagining their own offense in natural humor. Now, I'm not saying, that should give us license to make fun of someone. Of course it does not, or something. But if your humor is pure and light, I think we should be able to share it, because in holding it back, we're holding us back. And we're actually holding back the potential for others to release and heal in the shared laughter. So anyway, Chad, thanks so much for joining. It's so great to see you. Come join us more.
Thank
Really?
you. I will for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Chad. I'm just going to read one comment in the chat from Diana. She says, humor teleports you into the present moment. And that's beautiful. Elizabeth, would you please?
No, wait, hold on. I love
Wait.
Lisa's thing. Wait, Lisa's thing in the chat. Just 1 second. I love this. Lisa said, my mom's kidney dialysis machine blew up when I was little, and there was blood spurting everywhere. The only way we as a family could deal with it was to laugh. It was better than panicking or being scared. And it's true. It's true. Sometimes all you can do is laugh. It doesn't stop you from, calling to have the machine repaired and handling it and fixing and stopping the blood. But the same thing that we do with extreme seriousness and shoulds, we can do with laughter and joy, and it probably put your mom at ease too, in a better state. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Cecilia. Who's next?
Elizabeth, please unmute.
Thanks. I want to echo what Chad said, that I also um, was so delighted. I took the training in Montreal in 2004 and for both weekends, and the humor of it just I was so happy and excited. So thank you for that, Dr.
Thank
Eric.
you. Well, did that happen to be the year of the hat? If you
Oh my
either
gosh,
know
I
what I mean
can't
or you don't.
remember. I don't know.
Okay.
Were
I'll
you
tell no,
like
you know,
doing
no,
hat jokes?
you would know. No. We were in Montreal, one of those early years, and a whole bunch of us went out to a bar there. I can't remember what it's called. The bar has some big thing in front of it, looks like a statue, or anyway, it doesn't matter. In there was this really tall drag queen in this huge black and white striped hat or something, the whole outfit. And we talked about this and we laughed, and I said, I'm going to do it. I walked up and I asked the drag queen, I said, could I rent your hat? Well, it was too huge to move. So he said he'd bring it over. And I remember I paid him $50 or $100. He brought it over in the morning. He had to put it on me because it needed to be strapped a certain way to balance it, because it was so high and heavy. And I think it had earrings hanging from it and something else. It was outrageous.
Oh my God.
So he sets it up. We had to wait till everyone was in the room. And then whoever was opening was talking that morning. Were you there, Cecilia? I don't remember.
I was not there.
But I just remember it was in Montreal. And then with translation yet. And then they said, and here's Dr. Pearl, and healing is a very serious issue. And we're going to talk about this great way. And they had to open the double door. The hat was so wide, they couldn't open the single door. Everyone got in. They had to open the double door up high. And I had to be really careful not to fall. I felt like that I Love Lucy episode where she was the dancer in the stairs. And I walked in now, and everyone is like, but I pretended I did not have that hat on. So I gave a very serious introduction, going on and on, talking about healing as if the hat wasn't there. People were dying. They were on the floor. I wish I had pictures of it. Part of humor is not from forcing it. Part of humor sometimes comes from just allowing it, not noticing, or acting as if something unusual is occurring. Because it isn't. It's humor. And it's natural. Oh, someone wrote, I remember the year you putting curlers in your hair. I did that every year. Okay. But anyway, thanks. All right. So thank you for sharing that. Would anyone else like to share before we turn over to the living life love leaders that I can never remember how to say those words?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Robin, you had your hand up and now you've placed something in the chat. Robin, would you like to unmute? Robin? Other modalities, I can understand why they become insulted. If we create humor for ourselves, it starts there. But I do believe we need mindfulness when targeting others. But be in the I am humor, feel it, have fun with it, allow others to experience their perspective.
I'm here.
Are you, Robin?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry.
Sure, go ahead. We're listening.
No, go ahead. You could read what I wrote, and if you have a comment back,
Here, I'll read it. It says, other modalities, I can understand why they become insulted. If we create humor for ourselves, it starts there. But I do believe we need mindfulness when targeting others. Well, you know what? First of all, there's very little humor in mindfulness, and no one's targeting others. We're targeting ourselves. Look at some of the things.
Oh, wait.
We've been doing.
On that?
Sure.
But can I comment on that?
Sure.
So because I have other people, in my life that might have different belief systems, if I am engaged in that belief system and I see humor in it and we are both together engaged in it, then I feel that I have more of the mindfulness and when I say mindfulness, what I mean is that if I come from an egocentric point of view to find humor in something that somebody believes in and they don't see humor in what they're doing, then I'm coming from a point of egocentric self. If I am a Reiki healer and I find humor in what I'm doing as a Reiki healer, then the person who is also a Reiki healer can find humor in it. If I am not practicing Reiki and I make humor in that, then that becomes, and this, obviously this is all opinion based, that I am then being insulting to that person who cannot find the humor in that yet. So if I project or have a controlling aspect of what humor is and what humor is not, then that is completely egocentric of me. So
Okay,
that's
well,
why,
know your audience, whether
yeah,
it's an audience of
that's what
one or
I'm
an
saying.
audience of others. Know your audience and be true to yourself. And know that if you are here to express joy and humor, you are here. And if you do it from a heartfelt way, you can do it in a way where others are able to see it, or they're not yet able to see it. I wouldn't self-stifle because you're concerned, but I also wouldn't attack. I talk about moving clockwise or counterclockwise and up and down. These are all variations on universal approaches. It just so happened that these were Reiki teachers and they saw parts of that in themselves, although there was no focus on Reiki or any particular technique. I think the only thing that I did used to say that was, I still found it a little funny, was whether it's, this is different than Reiki, Jirei, Jinshin, Qigong, Mahjong, or Beijing. So they might have flipped out on that one. But you know,
all I'm
humor
saying,
has
listen,
timing, and there were too many
yes,
people in the room to sacrifice their learning and their experience because there was maybe someone who I didn't know in there who happened to be a teacher of this certain
right.
technique, and they might not
What
have seen the humor.
I have a very weird sense of humor. My kids tell me all the time I have a weird sense of humor. I laugh at everything. I find humor in pretty much the weirdest spaces. And I won't go into my weird humor, but all I'm saying is even within my own humor that I pretty much could laugh at anything. That is a side of me that I do. I you know, I just think sometimes that we even in comedy, you know, there's that threshold of what you can push the card of what's humorous. If we're just talking about being lighthearted, and as a reconnective healer, and that I'm embarking on because I'm going in the next 2 weeks to meet you, is that, you know, in any of the practicing that or facilitation that I'm doing with reconnective healing, that things that have come to me and that I have set aside of my ego, which why I love reconnective healing, is that if I didn't find humor in some of the things that I have experienced, then I would be, you know, it is humorous. It is like, well, why am I doing this? So I get that. I'm just kind of saying, you know, because there's so many people out there that have.
I got it. There's so many people out there. And if you manage to get through life without offending anyone, you haven't lived. So whatever it is, use your judgment, use your evaluation. But if you die and on your tombstone it says never offended anyone, you better ask to come back because you've really missed out somewhere. Thank you. So I see a couple of raised hands.
I'll have a debate with you one day about that.
Well,
that's great. Thank
maybe.
you so much. Yes. And we've been yes.
There are two other hands.
Thank you, Robin. We're gonna thank you. Janice, Philip had his hand raised, but just to let you know, at the bottom of your screen under reactions, that's where the raise hand button is.
You don't have it.
We don't have Windows 10 on here.
Okay,
we don't
great.
have that feature.
But now you are on, so here you go.
Hello. Yeah, there's a couple of things several people have touched on. One is the old saying that humor is the best medicine. So we can start from there. But also, I think that people tend to take themselves and everything else way too seriously. Mm-hmm. So there is humor to be seen everywhere. But I wanted to set a stage and tell you a story that one of the earliest jokes I've ever heard. I was lucky enough to be brought up around 3 generations of women, including my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother was this toothless old woman from Sicily who barely spoke English, but yet her best friend was a woman from Scotland who spoke with a very heavy Scottish accent. How these two were able to communicate, I have no idea. But Mrs. Hamilton, the Scottish woman, told my great-grandmother a joke, and it used to just make my great-grandmother laugh so hard she almost peed in her pants. And the story goes like this, and this is a Depression-era story. One day, it was a very, very rainy Thursday afternoon, and this very frugal Scotsman, who was a wealthy man, left his office. And as he was leaving, he saw this little newspaper boy standing on the corner saying, please, sir, buy my last newspaper so that I can go home and get out of the rain. And the man took pity on him and he said, well, how much is it? And he said, it's only 2 cents, sir. So the man gladly opened up his little coin purse and the moths flew out. He gave him the 2 cents and took the paper and went home. The next day, Friday afternoon, and again, it's raining cats and dogs. The man leaves his office and the same paper boy standing on the corner and says, please, sir, buy my last newspaper so that I can go home and get out of the rain. And the man asks, how much is it? And he says, well, it's the weekend edition. It's 3 cents. So the man gives him the 3 cents and takes the paper and goes home. Well, by and by, the Scotsman dies and he goes to heaven. And he's there at the pearly gates, and St. Peter says, well, we don't have your name in the book here. You know, have you ever done anything good? And the man recounts these stories to St. Peter. St. Peter says, well, let me go check this out with God. So he goes to God and he tells the story to God. God mulls it over for a minute and says, give him his nickel and tell him to go to hell. You gotta remember, I'm a kid, like in grammar school, like maybe 4th grade, when I hear this from my great-grandmother.
Well, for those of you who are coming to New York, we certainly hope to maybe on one of the nights be able to just hang out after the training program and talk and answer stories, but we can tell jokes too. I'm good with long jokes, but I can go on for 6 hours with you back and forth, which we can't do here. But thank you, Philip, for sharing. Anyway, we're going to just, there are a couple other questions, a couple other hands. So Cecilia?
Yes. So Jalpa, please unmute. We are
you know, this is when
Jalpa?
I just wanted to share that, you know, like Dr. Eric said, that it's not really about the techniques. I had never practiced techniques before Reconnective Healing, but when he came to Mumbai, we were very lucky. He had given a 1-hour talk and he was so funny. He was so hilarious that Total and me were just falling off our chairs. And immediately, you know, it just made me laugh at myself, because sometimes we all, at least I had done ridiculous things. I was very, you know, I was not practicing other techniques, but so many things, I was just trying to do it in a certain way. Like, for instance, if I'd light a candle, it had to be without my shoes. And after I did Eric, I met Dr. Pearl and I started doing Reconnective Healing. I started doing everything the other way around, and it made me laugh at myself. And I instantly knew it just reconnected me to something within. And I think humor brings in so much lightness. And I just enjoy listening at every seminar, listening to Dr. Pearl, and he just brings out more and more humor and lightness in my life. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. But we were just falling off our chairs listening to you. I think everybody in the audience thought that we were cuckoo, but you just lightened us to life.
Well,
and
thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you shared that, you know, and I'm going back on what we've been talking about, thinking about what we've just been talking about a couple of people ago. And, you know, if you're mean-spirited, that's not humor. If you are sharing humor in a light way, when someone's offended, it's often because they're not yet willing to laugh at themselves. It's probably not you. It's probably not you. And as Marianne Williamson says, we're not here to dim our lights so that others can feel better about themselves. We're really not. Always with consciousness, but we're not here to dim our lights for that. So that's a beautiful example. Thank you, Jalpa, for sharing that. And I see
Thank
Nancy is next, I think.
Yes, Nancy will be the last hand for the day. We're
Okay.
already at time. Thank you,
Because we
Nancy.
do have the life leaders.
We do have the life leaders.
Right.
Please mute. Nancy?
It's so beautiful. So you're just radiating, and it's I'm just so happy to be together with you and everyone here. But just yesterday I thought how serious I was getting. I'm getting ready to go off to Peru. I've had people offended when I've made them laugh when they've really not been feeling well. And I used to do groups, and I'd make them sit in a big chair, and I go, okay, over to that chair, and the whole group would start laughing in that opening. But this seriousness, right? When I used to have a Qigong master who's passed, but when people came in that were dying of cancer, very sick with cancer, he made them start skipping. He'd start doing like the curly, when Curly used to do his head from the Three Stooges.
Uh-huh.
And so I realized I was getting too serious, Eric. I was getting too serious about everything, about Amazons, about water, about, healing, about
Listen, you really should be serious about Amazon, because if they don't deliver those packages on time, they deserve to hear about it.
So thank you. Thank you. This transmission goes deep. It's like, let's, Nan, loosen up. Allow that,
Get over yourself. Get over yourself.
Gracias.
And that's one of the biggest things. But when we allow ourselves to get over ourselves, then others give themselves permission in that interaction. Yeah. And that's where the healings come about. We can't walk around and say, oh, there's someone here who might be offended if I say this. If you're saying it in a not nice way, maybe. But if you're simply seeing the humor in it, you are presenting that you're responsible to see the humor in it and share it, because it presents them with an opportunity to see the humor in themselves. And if they don't want to, they don't have to. The guy on the radio in Australia, he was right. He failed to see the humor. He should go back to school and find it. Okay. And if someone is offended at it, we know whether or not we've set out to offend. And if we set out to bring humor and lightness, then let's do that. That's why we're here. So anyway, thank you all for joining here. And I look forward to seeing so many of you in like a week and a half or something in New York. Yes. Really exciting.
It's all very exciting. Thank you so much, everybody. Oh my gosh, Eric, this was so much fun. So now we have our life leaders here to give us a bit more. Katharina Seidler, Jennifer Lynn Vanegas, and Harry. There you go. Welcome.
I'm glad Harry didn't injure himself. He almost fell off the chair. and thank you, Karen, for inviting us to that meal with your family. I hope it was good. It was nice.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey, everyone.
That was a nice, lighthearted conversation we get to continue on with.
It actually feels like a perfect self-care hour.
Oh, yeah. This was fun.
I remember, for me, my memory of the catalyst, apart from that it was absolutely life-changing, was that I just laughed so much. I think I did a whole year worth laughing in these 2 or 3 days. So yeah, there seem to be people that have like this natural inclination to see the funny side of things and to look at it in a light way. I think it has a lot to do with lightness, and I do find that it's contagious. I just it's easy to laugh along when somebody has a permission to see that, I find. So I really enjoy this.
Like Harry, he's one of the funniest people here, I think. I know he's always got jokes. I'm just waiting for one. You have one to share, Harry?
Well, not really, but I just remembered something that I thought was funny. Like when I did the catalyst, I think in 2015. This was in the Czech Republic, and there also was the world championship of snooker, like 8 ball, and these are all pretty big, like big guys that drink a lot of beer, and they go to in bars and stuff. And there were people from Bosnia and Serbia, and they asked me if I would come and like root for them. So I thought that was going to be like shouting and music and applause, but actually you have to be like super quiet. And all these big guys, they applaud like this. They just click their fingers. I thought that was so funny. uh,
Oh my gosh.
Before even before today's meeting, I thought about what makes things funny, and I do think that it's very cultural. I used to laugh a lot, and then I moved to Spain, and I just stopped laughing. And people, when they started saying to me, "Well, you really don't have an ounce of humor," I thought, "Well, they don't know me." And then I thought, "Well, I really haven't laughed in a long time." And then I wondered, and I really doubted myself, and I wondered, why is it? Why didn't I laugh? Why can't I laugh? And I think that Spanish humor, or the one that I experienced, is for me is really malevolent. Like, it laughs at people's like failings or pains. Like, somebody runs like in a door and hits a glass door, and they find this funny. And I know that this kind of humor exists, but for me, I'm just too empathetic, I guess. And many times I think it's language related. Like, you really have to get the meaning of words that are double meanings. So when it's not your language, it's difficult. And then when I moved back to Germany, I thought one of the best things was that it gets so easy to laugh, because you have the same cultural background and this silent understanding that's effortless. And so I'm discovering my humorous side again. That's really nice, actually. And I thought for a while, well, about the relationship between healing and humor. I thought that maybe you have to be healed to a certain degree. Like, you have to be doing good so that you can laugh. And then I realized it's really not like that. You can feel like really, really crappy, but if you give yourself the permission to laugh and to see this funny side, or to even want to see it, then it can actually lift you out of it. And with you, Harry, I see this every time, every day, that it's just an attitude. Like, that's how you look at life, and I'm sure you look at this no matter how you're doing. And I really admire that.
I think it's especially in maybe hard times, or that brings the best humor, right? Because then, I don't know, if you do like a hard work or hard labor, then like there's a lot of humor in there. People, we insult each other like the old time. So it's like it kind of breaks the ego. It doesn't make things serious. And like what you say, I think that's also true, because like when people are very serious themselves, you can always check it, because some of them, they actually appreciate it. It's like maybe they have to be serious for some reason. I don't know, like my grandpa, he was like that. He was the boss, he's the man. And then he's like shouting around orders. And then I'm just messing with him, I'm calling him like a Gaddafi and Ceausescu. I'm calling him like dictator names. And then everybody, like nobody, they would all go like, "Oh, you can say that to grandpa," but he's like chuckling, a little bit. And then you know that you got him. Like, because for him also, he maybe, it's like I think it's like a huge way to be serious and to be, to have to be that person. So
Yeah, like an irony with people's flaws, but a loving irony.
Yeah.
How's that for you, Jennifer? What's the most?
I admire that too. Like, people who are laughter is just part of their nature, and it's like easy to laugh at themselves. I think in my experience, especially lately, it's been really hard for me to connect with that less serious part of myself. And that's definitely part of my reconnective healing experience. Like, I think it's such a synchronicity that this is a whole topic that we're talking about today. And it's something for me to think about, and like strategies that I can, I don't know if I need strategies and processes, but like just think about how I can be more my true self, because I know that I am connected with that sense of humor. Like, that's the real me. But I've seen how I get disconnected from that. Like, even like when I'm listening to conversation like this, or like in a classroom setting, I remember when I was a child, I was like always the one who was like smiling and nodding when the teachers were making silly jokes. Some of the other students might have not even connected like that, but I'd like to reconnect with that aspect of myself. So I liked this conversation because it's helping me place my attention there where I want to be.
That reminds me of a friend who is a librarian, and she has I always think she has the hugest brain because she just knows so much and like remembers it. And so, and she actually like made this her goal for a year to become more humorous because she was always so serious.
Really?
And she got a book and read about what's funny and why it is funny. And I don't remember any of the content, but for me it's curious that one could have the idea to develop their humor, and that's a project she did it. I don't know if she became more funny, but for her this was the way she approached it.
That's cool. I love it.
So there's a guy walks into a library and he says like, give me like French fries, give me a hamburger, give me a big Coke. And the woman, she says, excuse me, sir, this is a library. And he says, oh, I'm sorry. Can I have a hamburger, a large fries, and a big Coke?
They eat in libraries too, right?
So what we learn from you is that we have to laugh in all kinds of settings, silently, loudly, always.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, guys, it was fun to hang out together and to be so inspired and to laugh so much. I think this gets better every time.
And Jennifer,
Yeah.
don't strategize.
I know.
Allow. Just when you recognize the humor, allow a smile, and share a joke if you remember one. Sometimes when someone tells a joke, it might remind you of another joke. Throw it in. And when you start to laugh and talk a little more, you're going to find it start to showing up in other places in your life. There are themes to jokes. Like there was a theme to Harry's joke about the place where it was and what it wasn't, and what would change and what wouldn't change. It was like, so that reminded me of a very simple little old Jewish couple lying in bed, and Sadie and Abby, and Sadie nudges Harry with her elbow. Abby nudges Sadie with his elbow and says, Sadie, close the window. It's cold outside. Sadie's comfortable in bed. She turns her back to him. He nudges her again. Close the window. It's cold outside. She pulls the pillow over her head. Finally, he gives her in Jewish, you call it a zetz, such a little shove. She almost falls off the bed. He looks at her. He said, Sadie, close the window. It's cold outside. She gets up, gives him the dirtiest look, storms over the window, slams it down, turns around, glares at him, and says, there, now it's warm outside. So it's allowing for the unexpected. But right now, Jennifer, if that reminded you of any joke, childhood, old or young, did it trigger anything?
Yeah. Just
which one? Tell us.
Just an easiness and
does it remind you of a joke?
No, I can't.
Okay.
No joke that I can tell.
That's all right. You just remember jokes no jokes that you can tell, but jokes that you can laugh at quietly on the inside. That's a start. And then with your own friends, you share those jokes that you don't think that you can tell here.
Yeah.
And you've got something going on. You are going to find the healing that you need right now growing within you. So share a joke, and if you don't know one, then you look up jokes on the internet and you keep reading through a bunch of dull ones until you get to a funny one, and then call someone and say, hey, I just want to share this joke with you, and share it. Start with 1 or 2 light ones. It doesn't mean turn your life into joke telling. It doesn't. But sharing laughter with friends, and it'll trigger that, and they'll trigger something in you, and then you'll find another one and you'll start to find more humor in your life. And your humor is your healing. And right now, with all the changes in your life, for God's sakes, bring more humor. You can't laugh too much. Can't. Okay.
Yeah. I know we're finishing, but I didn't tell this one change. I posted on the RLC Facebook page about my bathroom remodel. I thought it was kind of funny, like of all pictures to put up, I'm putting pictures of my toilet room. But anyways, I actually at 3 a.m. trying to finish painting a cabinet was laughing at myself because I spilled a whole can of paint over on the counter in the sink, and it was like really expensive paint. So I did get to tell a couple RLC friends that story, and so I do have my moments. But
good, and let's post the story with the heading over it: Jennifer tells toilet jokes.
I love it.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Well, we'll get you a gig in Flushing, New York. Okay. So thank you, everyone. It was fun today. Cecilia, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, everyone. That was just brilliant and wonderful. And I'm just so grateful. And it's really not about the joke itself. It's about lightening up and finding humor in whatever that means to you. So everybody, I placed some notes in the chat. So please join us in Reconnective Yoga this Saturday with Kelly Woodruff. We have a lot of fun and just frequencies, movement and it's just so powerful. Please join us. And we have our Q&A next week. So on Tuesday, bring your questions. And if you think of questions during the week, I put my email the questions to me so we remember to say them during the Q&A on Tuesday. So Cecilia@thereconnection.com, send me your questions for our town hall Q&A. We're happy to start a list of questions that you have, and more on the nature of self-care this month. So exciting. We look forward to seeing you all. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It was great today. Very funny.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey there, family. Dr. Eric and Jillian here.
Welcome, everyone.
And we're very excited about Reconnective Life, our first online global community. This is the most exciting way we've been able to get together since I founded the Reconnection. This will be a place where we can do things together. We'll move into breakout rooms at times when that's appropriate. We'll have energy interactions and meditations and exercises. In other words, expect things you haven't seen before.
You are so charged.
Thanks.
He is so lit about every new way we get to be together every day. Just be together. Let us just speak a little bit about what is going to be the shape of this community.
In this community, we can share and discover more. Here we can talk to each other, we can chat, we can learn from and about one another. Jillian, me, our life leaders, and you will be in daily conversation with you. Weekly, we will have Facebook Lives.
We will be with you every Wednesday. Sometimes it'll be just Eric. On occasion, it might just be me. Sometimes it'll be the two of us. It's all about giving you a way to look at the week living in the frequencies.
And in every fourth week, we will include a live Q&A so we can talk about things that have been coming up for us, discuss back and forth, share, grow, expand together.
And the ever-growing library of content that has been created over 20 years that will be on demand for you. It will be on-demand content for you to view, enjoy, share again with your inner circle.
And monthly, we are going to have live Zoom retreats.
We're going to bring in some exercises and experiences and things that previously we've reserved for our physical retreats, you know, when we were in the different location resorts and things. And we're modifying them so that we can work with these with you in your home, in your living room, in your den.
Put into the chat line, what is facility?
We're having these weekly Zoom in-depth Q&As.
Finally, we have a place and space to just define what does that really mean, living in the frequencies.
This is something that is in all of us.
Everyone can do this.
It doesn't matter how many levels you've gone through or how well you know the programs. It's a community that allows us to recognize how interrelated we all are as receivers of energy, light, and information.
See you there.
Reconnective life, living in the frequencies every day.